welcome back to On the Road podcast with myself, Flo, and Mark.
Yes.
Today we are recording our last episode for 2024.
Yes.
And this is episode 6. So we're just going to have a nice recap of how it all began. How it all began. How it went.
And
where
where
we
we
need to
are.
improve.
Yeah.
Where we need to improve.
Can say that again.
And also the Road Freight SME Summit. But before we get into it, let's just have a quick recap of the various episodes that we have had. And you'll see also, we'll add some pictures from the summit.
Yep.
Standing hour of a vehicle costs a transport of 5,000 rand.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Right.
Hopefully in the next 5 years, be one of the big guys.
Now, you must remember, if it's a 30-day cycle, you're actually only getting your money in 60 days.
Yeah.
So you service the guy, 30 days, you put an invoice, you're only going to get that money 30 days later.
Yeah.
Where do you get the funds to then take you from day 1 to day 60?
And entrepreneurship is not a lifestyle; it's a profession, right?
Do you hear another line? Trucking has no money.
When you're not?
You're not compliant.
Absolutely. The first bakkie I bought disappeared.
The first 1 to 5 trucks. I'm sure you've had lows.
Yeah.
Because you're saying in 2018 you got your big
Yeah, big
contract.
one, yeah.
That was a high
Yes.
point for you. What were the lows?
Look, the lows was cash.
That refilling pattern is so important.
It's extremely important. We have some case studies where just of old customers, just changing their refueling pattern, leading to a substantial saving on their fueling bill.
Even within the ups and the very lows that you go through as an entrepreneur, I've never had an option. I've never thought that there's actually an option of ever going to employment.
What has been the challenges then from having those 5 trucks to now you're over 50?
There's payment terms. There's 60 days, there's 30 days, there's 45 days.
You have to govern everything. You don't choose to leave a space ungoverned.
Entrepreneurship is a mindset, right? Growing a family business, you've had a jump start on a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And if you don't see that as a privilege, then you're going to have a problem. So I have a great foundation to live out my entrepreneurial brain.
Family.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Bad mistake.
I was going to say, I was about to say to you that, that's the worst. I experienced it as well. That is the worst.
It's a debt that never, even once you've paid it, you still remain indebted.
And there's always that way. He made now. Who made sure?
Being an entrepreneur, it's so different. I think just in terms of our industry, because we speak industry and an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
The industry itself, we were speaking about it early on, it's 24/7, 365.
Biggest risks that you faced in the journey from 1 to over 50?
Yeah, my biggest risk is not being able to pay my staff.
Yeah. Rates are a very important thing. Calculating rates are very important in the industry. Who taught you how to calculate rates, and where were your mistakes?
My mistakes was I always undercharged. Funny enough, we just found ourselves in a situation where we just lost a contract because people just felt that, their agenda and our agenda was not the same. That's tricky because you don't have any money.
Yeah.
So now you have to find that money, you have to do that, and you have to believe that the assets you've bought will enable you to get accreditation.
Yeah.
And after then, when you have accreditation, only then can you go to your client. Is that what you're saying?
The client will say, we will consider you only if you've got this accreditation.
But even 0.1 on your CPK of your vehicle has a substantial impact on your bottom line.
What is the business model that you have adopted to move from 1 truck to the second truck? I think, you guys are 5 and above. What did you learn about yourself as an entrepreneur that you needed to improve to become a better leader?
there, as you can see, I thoroughly enjoyed this new thing that we have started to do.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks for being around. You know,
we've even been
Hey,
together.
We haven't been together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sometime.
The last episode was hectic without you. It was hard. It was hard. But the guys, they took me through it. We went through, and we came out right.
I think we underestimate how challenging it is just to do an opening link, just to make sure that you're following the conversation.
Yes.
You know, when you're having, and making sure that you make the next person comfortable. But how are you? How's your year been?
My year's been good. Hey, it's been hectic at some point, rough. A lot of learning, and it's challenging. You know, a lot of people management that I had to also learn, and relationship building, networking. Relationship building and stuff like that, you know. So you learn, you know, what are some of the things? I mean, life's about learning, right? So now you get to a point of saying, oh, well, maybe I'm not so good at this, so I need to work on this. So yeah. Yourself, how was your year?
Yes, the only word I could find to describe 2024 was fight.
Fight?
Yeah.
Like pew, 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 pew.
I find that my year from Jan 2024, I've just been fighting.
Sure. That's hectic.
Right. Malisela actually asked me, we had him in episode 2.
Yeah.
And then he interpreted it quite differently. He's like, oh, so you've been working really hard.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, oh, is that how you're going to say it?
That's what
Dude,
I was going to
I've
say.
been fighting.
Yeah.
I've been really, really fighting. That's been 2024. I think there's a lot that even just, let's say, starting this podcast, because we started it from scratch.
We did.
You know, so anything you start from ground up, you literally are going to fight to make it happen. You're going to fight to be consistent. You're going to fight to gain momentum. You're going
to be relevant.
And to be relevant.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
So that has been my 2024. And physically now I can feel that I'm pretty exhausted. Because of the fight.
Yeah, no, I'm exhausted. Like, I'm proper exhausted. I think for me, one of the other things was I started a lot of, so I've learned a lot, as I said. So I started a lot of things.
Yeah.
And then as you start these things, you then, you don't realize that you now need to kind of keep them. It's like a little kid, right? So you kind of need to, momentum and you need to constantly water, right? And now what I found is that because I'm one of those people that when I think even in high school, I liked doing like 10 things at the same time. I'd be in press club, then I'd be, like everything, and I think I just kind of, I'm like that. But over a period of time, I've started to realize that maybe it's not actually the smart thing
is a priority. Nothing is a priority.
Yeah. Because now you're touching here, touching there. So it's learning, right? So now, my next year, I'm going to focus on what I've planted. I'm not going to
water.
I'm going to start watering them and stuff, and fertilizer, let them grow a bit before getting another child. Hey?
Yeah, you got a couple this year. You got a couple this year.
Yeah. Thank goodness they don't talk.
No, you do. And I think also just from an entrepreneurial perspective, we're constantly living in a dual environment, you know, or not even environment, but a place of like cognitive dissonance. Is that what English says?
Hey!
It's like two conflicting thoughts.
Hey,
you've got the sense of, oh yes, I've accomplished this, or yes, we have managed to, attain this.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you've got the pressure of making sure that it is sustainable, it's something that you can maintain, it's something that you can grow, and the pressure of, if you're having other people that are now reliant, on you. Not that they're fully reliant on you, but they're reliant on making sure that the business is sustainable. So
I'll tell you something I learned about especially this year. Last year I learned it a bit, but I didn't really take it seriously. But this year I've learned a lot about prioritizing. But I've also learned that so I was very selfish this year with my with the way I did things. I focused a lot on building on these businesses. So starting a business and building it was was important for me, and not so much relationship building. So what happened was, as much as I thought my relationship building was okay. So, but what happens is that when you start pushing business all the time, your business you get married to your business. We had a conversation earlier, right? And you mentioned about somebody who's married to their business. So I then married my businesses, literally.
Couple of wives,
yeah. And then the problem is that now you focus on these businesses, and then you realize that you know your people skills start to suffer a bit. Then your actual important things, you know, in life, like relationships with people, with family, and you realize that you actually start to not, you know, now you're not getting so many calls anymore, or you're not calling people anymore. You're more focused on, I want the money. And I think my take out of this whole year is that it's good to focus on business, but you also need people in your life. So my next year, that's why I said next year is more about, yes, I need to start watering these, but now also need to start building my relationships, my personal relationships with people.
I think for me, that penny dropped like a year ago.
Oh.
And what I then started to do was everything I want to do it with people that I want to do it with, and people that I want to create memories with.
Yes.
So I became intentional in saying, well, let's say this podcast, for instance, I'm going to spend a lot of time building this podcast. Whom are the people that I want to build a relationship with and build something with?
Okay.
And then was intentional to say, okay, I'll bring Mark, I'll bring, Kamo, I'll bring Samke, I'll bring other people, because I enjoy the relationship with them.
Right.
But also I'm being intentional to say, oftentimes you don't get time to just hang out or do certain things. But we are building something while we're getting to know each other. And I think it's very important
like
for us. Yes.
No, you're right. Actually.
Very, very important for you. Sometimes to step back and think to yourself to say, well, with the things that I'm building, am I building them with people that I genuinely like and genuinely want to be 60? Right? You know. No, also what I mean is like you want to get to 60 and you want to tell stories about the people that you were with and the people you built things with. And you are still in relationship with
yes,
friends with, you know, and then you pass down that particular knowledge, so to say, to you, you know, to them that are coming after you. But relationships are generally very hard because I mean, both our paths are littered with a lot of betrayals.
A
lot of betrayals. And things like that. But I guess it speaks to that at the end of the day, we are human beings. And that's what also I think made the podcast for me such a beautiful experience, because we got to have conversations with other people that are building similar, similar businesses, let's say within one industry. And
you're right.
You get to listen to them and learn from their stories, and there's a resonance and a sense of belonging that I'm get.
But let me ask you, I think let's take it back, because I get a lot of people ask me, how did you guys, you know, you're a transporter, you know, and I like how people describe you, I must say. People are like, she's a convener. And I'm always like, I don't know about convener.
But she's something.
But I remember when we were at the ETV studio, and Dan, Brad Dan said, introduced you. And I like how he the way he pronounced that word. It was so he's like
carried weight.
Convener. And I think from there, people that have kind of watched us in the space, particularly within the transport space, pretty much know you as a convener, right? But I'm not sure if people know how you actually even got into transport, because the other thing about it is that you know, not so long ago, you were driving my truck, right? Yes. So
and I've got a lot to say about it.
Driving my truck, and I've not even driven the trucks, and you're driving the truck, and you know, and people don't know. And I think it's just important, and it's quite probably fair for us to know, like, how did you get into this industry? Why are you in transport? Because you didn't study transport.
No.
What did you study?
Mark is now turning this conversation into an interview about Florence. Watch.
No, it's not. I just want to know. Flo.
Ke a go bona.
No. So tell me,
But, yes,
but tell
so
us.
how
We
did
wanna
it
know.
start? I think everybody knows that I'm a daughter of a taxi owner.
Yes. She's a
Dad
daughter
of a
of. Be
taxi
very
owner.
careful now.
Yeah. No, my dad is not like an Inkabi type of thing, but
That's what they say.
no, he's not.
Yeah.
So I grew up largely seeing my dad build
His
from one
taxi
taxi.
empire.
His taxi. It's not really an empire.
Yeah.
My
No,
dad,
but let's give him his flowers.
Yeah.
It's definitely an empire.
Ke papa.
No. And you were handling that truck like with one hand.
Yeah,
I was
because
like,
I was driving a taxi when I was young.
Yeah.
I needed to park the taxis. So having seen that and growing up in that in that environment, then influenced me in one way or another coming to entrepreneurship. Let's start there.
Okay.
Right. But as to the industry, many years ago, I did a woman in transport conference. So a lot of people that would know me would know Florence to be the girl that built conferences from scratch up.
Right.
Yes,
So you've been
because
okay.
I've always been in that space.
Yeah.
Because
Hence the word convener.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah,
Convener,
but it's better than
MC.
event. No, I'm not an MC. I'm
Event
not
coordinator.
an MC. Yeah, maybe events manager. You know.
Yeah,
but,
right. I hear you.
But it
Yeah.
stemmed from having this deep conviction. If that is, probably that's the right word. That one can build a business that owns conferences.
Right.
Because my first job, I was a conference producer.
Okay.
So I quickly understood how somebody could build the World Economic Forum and how the World Economic Forum or the mining indaba becomes a signpost
Right.
in an industry.
Yes.
And you
yes.
do not
Which it
need
is.
to be, you don't need to be a politician. You don't need to be the richest person to influence.
Mm.
So I've just generally, as Florence, leaned towards living a life that's impactful, purposeful, and that could bear some form of influence
Right.
in whatever sphere that I have. So the first thing is to learn to convene an industry or to learn to convene power or people. That's where it all starts, because then you can connect and then you can catalyze. So many years ago, I can't even remember when, like 10 years ago, I did a woman in transport. And that's how I got introduced into the industry, besides knowing that my dad was, had
In
a
transport.
taxi, business. And then that led me to getting into a particular business partnership where I co-owned a transport academy.
Okay.
So that's when I got to understand
Transport
trucking.
Academy, like teaching.
Yes,
Okay.
truck drivers.
Oh,
Truck drivers.
I
Yes.
see.
So then that exposed me to road freight, and my
Right.
journey within that academy led me to starting a developmental program for women entrepreneurs that are truck operators.
Beautiful.
Right?
Beautiful.
And then that also opened me further to understanding the nuances about building a trucking company.
Yes.
But what it also showed was the needs.
Right.
Right, from what is required to build a sustainable trucking business.
Yes.
And you'll find that and you would know best that there's not a lot of place for you to go find support.
No.
Right.
Not at all.
Yeah, so that was then my first introduction within the road freight industry. That business relationship went south. And then I met you.
Yes. And we've been
Then-
going forward.
Then I
since
met
then.
you. Then
But let me
we
ask
had-
you this.
yeah.
Because so we met.
Yeah.
We met in an MBA class.
Yeah.
And we met in a course called.
Elective.
It's an elective.
Yeah,
It was
social entrepreneurship.
Social entrepreneurship. And one of the things we were looking at in that course was the impact.
Yeah.
The social impact,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Now that social aspect of it, because you said you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Would you say you're a social entrepreneur?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I think, in the definition of what I try, the problems I'm trying to resolve are social problems.
Yes.
Right. And my wiring is in that
Absolutely.
direction. So I'm more around facilitating growth for people.
Yeah.
I always say, Ish, I'm not that entrepreneur that could go and find something to sell quickly and then,
Yeah.
you
You're not
build
an Elon
something
Musk.
No,
Yeah, yeah.
not at
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
And it took me time to identify actually what kind of an entrepreneur I am. So
it's important because there's many forms of entrepreneurship, right? And the reason I'm saying that is when I selected that elective, it was one because I said to myself, I'm very capitalist in nature, right? As you would know, right? And everything is about the rand and the rand and the rand and the dollar and the dollar and the cents make the right.
People
and then,
come after.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. People come first. I'm joking. I'm
Really?
joking.
Can we flow? Can we
Yeah,
flow?
I'm sorry.
Can we
I just
flow?
needed to throw it
No,
out there. Yeah.
I love people. I do.
No,
Thank you.
definitely.
So yes.
You've
So
got
as
one of the
compared to
best
you-
teams ever.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. But things so with you and the fact that you're doing conferencing and you were doing conferencing.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you a secondary question to it. So I think conferencing is very social, and I'd assume that you then measure the impact of a particular, call it a conference or an event and whatever it might be, right? And when you do that and you measure that, is that what influences you doing the course, the event or the conference the next year? Or is it motivated by the rands and the cents that you make?
It has to make rands and cents sense. That's not there.
All right.
Right.
So it's a money thing.
Yeah. No, for you to build anything sustainably,
Yeah.
it must have the right financial model. You have to understand it and build it around that.
Bam, 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 bam. I told you about the bell. Like, pew.
Right?
There we go. Right,
So
I hear you.
You cannot just run with the feeling, in inverted commas, of passion. You have to understand the business that you're getting into, and you have to understand how the financial model works. So in conferencing, it's sponsorship and delegates, right? So you have to really understand the nuances around that. What keeps me going, it's not necessarily around the impact, but it's the sense of fulfillment that I'm doing what I was born to do. I have long time detached myself from the applause of men or the applause of, as much as, yes, I think it has its place that you'll get a lot, and you would know with the Road Freight SME Summit, you know, how a lot of people in the industry will write, the press will write about it, and one will get great feedback. But for me, it's far beyond that.
Right.
Because I cannot do it, and I'm doing it because I want people to say, yo, Florence is very impactful. No. Right. So fundamentally, I believe I'm a facilitator of growth.
Right.
Right. And
Very key.
fundamentally, I believe that I can influence industry.
Right.
Right. In a particular direction favorable
Yes.
for small and medium enterprises. So that is the core of me.
Yeah.
And then lastly, because I'm a teacher at heart, it just makes sense.
I think that's
So-
where we meet.
Yeah.
Because me and you are very passionate about small business.
Yes.
And I think that's really the glue.
Yeah.
But I think further to that, that's how this podcast, that's
Yeah,
how
yeah.
this the actual summit and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
the thinking behind it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But I remember very well that this road summit that we had, there was a lot of because remember we had to kind of break away. Break away
No,
from
I
something that
think-
was there, right? That was already kind of
Yeah.
founded. There was something there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, our journey has been interesting
It
because
has.
we first started with the South African Freight Awards.
Yes.
Right?
yes,
And
yes.
I was like, Ma, come on. Sponsor, let's see, you know,
Yes.
And but we had to, because it was not our full expression.
Yes, let's talk about
And
that.
that
Let's
is
talk
what
about
I
that a bit.
think a lot of times people, either you have to learn early in your journey as an entrepreneur or you learn late, is to be involved in something that you're convicted off, and also it embodies your full expression. You can fully express yourself without necessarily being a conduit for somebody else's agenda.
That's right.
So that for me was the principle. Is it's either you're going to partner with people, right, that ultimately you're going to be a conduit of their agenda, or you have to believe in your agenda and be convicted enough in your own perspective of what needs to happen in this industry for small and medium enterprises, and take the risk and be bold enough to go start from scratch again and build something because of your conviction or not. And typical...
And hence the and hence the breakaway.
I was like, yes.
And hence the breakaway.
Hence the breakaway. Because it principally, if you're not aligned, and I think I've learned this, and you've probably learned this, in as much as we can talk about collaboration is important, and collaboration is the new innovation, as people have said. Yes, you have to be very, very woke, for lack of a better expression, and very discerning when you are not necessarily working with people that you share similar values with, but you're going to be used to be a conduit for a particular agenda. Because typically people will then view as if you're desperate for some form of clout. Or desperate for some form of association with certain people. And I'm not that person.
No. And I think that's what we've done. And I think so when we started, and you're right, started as a WhatsApp. Let's get going. Everything is everything. Let's see how we go around this.
Let's see Yarbonne.
And then all of a sudden but let's talk about it. So and then ultimately at some point we started thinking about, because we are growth orientated. We want to expose small SMEs, and medium enterprises. And what was interesting was that it then led us to our first episode. And I know that you were part, very much so, even more than me, in terms of bringing together the team of the ladies that we brought in, right? What was the thinking behind episode 1 at the time?
It was so difficult though, because what we had done previously with Gamo and Samke, they're not here. You could have heard their voices.
You could have heard them by now.
Was let's take out some adverts, right? Because we've got a growing LinkedIn community. To say, hey, let's listen to your guys' stories. We are starting a podcast. We would like to interview you. But as you would know, when you're starting anything from scratch, not everybody's like, we're not too sure, about what could happen here. And then I had to sit back and say, okay, let me go back to the attendees of the first Road Freight SME Summit.
Yes.
And let me see who is there and who is willing to come and share their story. And lo and behold, as the people that were confirming, it happened to be 3 females.
Beautiful.
For the first episode.
Beautiful.
Right?
Beautiful.
So I thought, okay, no, this is a great start. And it's literally a clean canvas. This is all a clean canvas. We are writing the template as we go.
We're changing the wheel.
Fortunately, you trust me enough for me to do what it is, because it takes a lot of trust in the next person to say, whatever, if she's saying let's do it like this, let's do it like this, because you trust me. And that's how then I looked into the composition, but I was very nervous. I was very nervous. I was vulnerable as to how will this thing be received.
When it came to me, I was like, is it only ladies? I couldn't believe it.
Even just the concept of the podcast, like how are we going to be received? I was nervous as to how you and I are going to have what they call on-screen chemistry. Right, because the presenters have to have some form
chemistry,
of a flow.
Of course,
I was nervous that we didn't practice, and I was like,
I must say, that's actually
we're
very
just gonna rock up.
So in actual fact, to tell you the truth, we got into the studio and that's it.
That is it.
We didn't practice. We didn't say anything. Got there. And I would have loved to have gone through, but in actual fact, I'm glad we didn't. Because you know what? When you left me alone, by the way, the last episode, I realized how difficult it is. Right? And then there's a certain point I was saying, like, when they go, cut, and I was thinking, hey man, how many cuts can a person get?
No, it is.
Yeah.
And also, I think there was like, I felt like, we haven't done enough research.
Yes, that's
You
right.
know,
That's right.
from we haven't done enough research. Even like this past week, I was rewatching the episode.
Yeah.
It's like, I can see.
Yeah.
Here we didn't do enough research.
Yeah.
There we did a little bit of research.
Yeah.
But hey, it's a clean
But it got
canvas.
better as it went on. But I can also tell you, we are entrepreneurs and we're in the space.
Yeah.
So often, with these things, yes, probably the structure of how it would have been done would have been. But I think the technical know-how, the knowledge itself, the industry know-how, we are in there. It's what we do every day.
Next year we'll get, I think we're going to get way better next year when we get a producer, so that I would really want us to go in-depth research.
Okay.
It's just that it's a pity that not a lot of people have a lot of information about themselves online.
Yes.
So it's very difficult for you to research. But back on the episode 1, and that was that, Then we had the 3 girls.
And they were lovely.
Mahlaku, Michelle, and Tobeka.
Yes.
And then afterwards, I then had to learn all these things. Squeeze back and vet. Anything. Heaven.
And they were all doing separate things.
Yes, they were
which was
different,
lovely.
different
Yeah,
industry.
and another thing we picked up from that episode was the support structure.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That's so important to get support, especially for the 2 ladies.
Yes.
Because their husbands were very involved in their businesses, right?
Yes.
And then we also learned as well the independence, the fact that,
autonomy.
Mahlaku had that thing, She started, the only thing she knows is running a business. She's never worked for anyone
else,
and I love that about that as well. And then we worked on, and then after that we moved on to episode 2.
Oh, my favorite, Malisela and Tapua. I loved it. Because I think
I was happy there were guys.
I think you and I were in good moods that day.
Yeah, already.
Let us not like guys.
We were very happy.
Sometimes when you are not having a good morning,
Yeah,
you come here. And
that day was. I think that day we
we were just having a
and we
good
flowed
day,
with the guys, huh?
I loved them. I loved how open they were because we didn't necessarily talk about just them running the businesses that they run.
Yes.
In depth. Like we talked about life.
We talked about
and
life.
all the other things around what it takes holistically. We talked about mental illness coming to men. I got a lot of guys, guy friends of mine, they're like, hey Flo, this one we need it. And I guess for me it was just being able to start certain conversations within certain environments that people will not necessarily have, because entrepreneurship can be very glorified and it's very difficult.
And very lonely. Very lonely. And I'll tell you, one of the things I also enjoyed about that specific episode was, as you had said, the mental health conversation, right? And sometimes you feel you're the only person going through it. And then when you speak to other guys, they're going through the same thing, and some of the things that they mentioned there, I could resonate, and I thought, my God, and
they were positive.
Deep. And they're very
so
positive.
Much depth.
Absolutely.
So much depth.
Yeah, and they're coming back next year as well. We're going to have another.
What I loved also about the podcast, and I know, it's only our first year and we still have quite a long way ahead of us, but I've then developed personal relationships with most of them.
Yeah. Look, you're a relationship person. Let's not forget.
I speak to Tapiwa and Malisela like any other day. Michelle.
Yeah.
Actually, the first episode, during the time that we were recording the first episode, Michelle had just became a new mom.
Oh.
Yeah, so I was like, oh my gosh, so I know Rebecca, her daughter and things like that. So it's always it's quite interesting, as to how these relationships happen.
Yes.
But I'm saying this to say that when people then see the growth of the summit, they should not necessarily think it's an overnight thing.
Yeah, no, it's not. No.
It's when you start seeing a Malisela speak, or when you're seeing a it's because it fed from somewhere, then a relationship built.
Absolutely.
And then when you see an R&R being a partner of the summit, is because it comes from somewhere.
No, 100%.
So,
Look, I must say, you're very good in relationship building. You're very good. I think you've got also the patience. and
I
the
love
understanding.
people. I love people.
You love people, and I think hence you're able to bring people even closer. One of the things that
I've got Mark to do a podcast, guys. Like what? If you know, you know.
Not the time. You know. Too early.
If you know, you know.
Cut! Too early. So, yeah, I must tell you, as I said to you, you know, this thing is, this has actually got
when
me.
you said to me, I miss doing the podcast, I was like, I got Mark to do and love doing the podcast.
Yeah, I said it, yes.
Yay!
I was like, hey, man, when are we doing this
This
thing?
thing.
It's
Yeah,
been
no.
some time,
Yeah,
right?
no,
Yeah, but I
hey.
must tell you that my year, as I said, was very busy.
Yeah.
And I just never have time for
Yeah.
anything in
Yeah, yeah.
particular, right? And for you to get, and it's something that I still, and you're right, I still think, because I've got to a point of literally, when we book it, like today, it's prioritized.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
prioritized, something I need to do, and
But the
often
vision is very compelling, though.
it is.
The
It
vision is very
Yeah,
compelling. And I
yeah.
think because we are so in it
Yeah.
and we are seeing all the other things that are happening that
Yeah, we're
other
in it
people
now. It's
don't
too late
see
now.
it.
Ish, can't go back.
Yeah,
Yeah, we are
hopefully,
too in
hopefully
now. We
5
can't
years
go back.
from now,
We'll
we
still
won't-
be here.
No, maybe we won't come back and say, yeah, you know what had happened was,
Kind of lost contact.
yeah, not
No,
only
no.
lost contact. No, what would happen was Florence cheated me. You know, she didn't tell me that she was doing business. People, because that's how a lot of people fail.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
certain
that's
people
true.
become greedy.
Yes, that's
And
true.
then things just collapse. But to the point of saying the vision is compelling,
Mm.
I think the vision is that compelling, and I am of the belief that a vision has no gender.
Yeah.
Because I find people saying, "Oh my gosh, you're a woman," and literally, you can tell most of the people I work with are men. Like
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
leading
yeah.
a bunch of men.
Men, yeah.
You know, and I was like, but a compelling vision has no gender.
No,
It
hasn't.
has no gender.
No.
At all.
Now let's move on to episode 3 and 4.
This is you. You were episode 3. No,
No,
episode
episode-
3 was TFN.
Yes.
I enjoyed having a conversation with John.
Yes.
I didn't know how complex the business was.
Very complex.
I didn't know.
So what's interesting, so I missed the interview.
Yes.
And then I caught up with him at the summit. And of course, you know, I'm a client.
Yeah.
I use the TFN platform a lot. Be it local, cross-border, they're just that. And so me and so we're having a conversation, his team and I. And we're just having a catch-up conversation, and I was talking about the interview, and I was saying to him, I watched the interview, and then he said to me, which was very interesting, and he said to me, we are actually a software company.
Yes.
And I said, yeah, I heard that, but let's
unpack it.
Yeah, I want to know the software thing. And he's like, yeah, I don't know if you watched it. I'm like, no, I watched the interview, but I
Tell
want
me
you
now.
to tell me, right? And he says, no, we're software. That's what we do. It's just that we've just connected and brought people closer through a platform. Yeah. And that's what we really stand by. It's that software that we have, right? But it's interesting how they've developed, or the father developed, and he's taken over. And I think and he was saying to me that, look, Mark, we're not going anywhere. And it's me and my kids, and after my kids and other kids. It's going to be a family thing. And the question you asked was very important around that is, and I think it's important, how do you build
A family business.
you know, and make it so tight that it creates wealth
for everybody.
And expands then to, because I always say, if you employ one person, you've actually impacted 4.
And his answer was so profound. When he said that you have to recognize the first visionary and give honor to the first visionary and understand that it was also their baby.
Absolutely.
Right. And I thought that was profound, because oftentimes, even if whether it's family or you bring in a new CEO or whatever, it's a lot of people don't take the time to recognize and to honor the first visionary.
Yes.
And
the founder.
also, and also to take the time to earn their respect.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll tell you.
And that's what he's done.
No,
with
he's
his
done
dad.
that. He's done that with his dad.
He's done with his dad. And that was, for me, I mean, they've got their own dynamics, as he
like
would
any
say,
other,
you know.
like any other.
They've got their own dynamics, but kudos to humility.
Yeah.
And kudos to humility and seeing how your vision can be encompassed and be accommodated, and then you can scale it for generations to come.
You know what I wanted to ask him, and I will at some point, but of course it would be nice to talk to the father.
And we should actually bring the dad.
You should bring the dad. I'll tell you why. I've
I
invested.
saw a church inviting the dad.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
So I've invested in a recycling company, and it's a family-owned business. And
recycling business.
A recycling business. Yeah, Jewish Ren recycling business. Very good. It's actually one of the biggest private-owned recycling businesses in South Africa. The funny part about it is that we're having a conversation, having a glass of wine, and the guy says, and I ask him about his kids. I'm like, so your kids, are they coming in? Are they in? And whatever. And he says to me, yeah, Mark, no.
Not too sure.
No, not my kids. I'm like, really? He's like, nope, they've made it very clear. They're not coming in. They're not interested in waste. They're not interested in they come to my compound and they're like, oh, we don't want to be here.
Yeah.
And then he's got a brother. And then I asked the older brother's like, listen, my son said it from the very beginning. When the boy was like 5, he just said, Dad, I don't want to go to work with you anymore, right?
Yeah.
So he was saying that, it's so sad because when I was a kid, I used to drive tractors and drive some of these lorries around helping my dad. And hence, when my dad kind of retired, it was just given me and my brother, we just kind of took over the business. But because my kids and his kids are also not interested, it then becomes it's sad for us to see that, sooner or later, the business that was ideally, founded or made by my, and created by my dad for us, is really just going to fade off and is going to be given to other people's hands, which is the reality. And hence...
When it gets to third generation,
there's no third generation. So what I wanted to get to and to ask him was, and I guess the father, is how you create that, And even worse for John, because now John is now the second generation. Third generation becomes important,
because a challenge.
Yeah, and it comes back to sometimes and I used to always laugh about it, and I said, but why do it? When people introduce themselves, they'd say, I'm the founder and CEO of MLM Logistics, right?
Yeah.
And I would say, do you have to say founder? But in actual fact, you have to say founder because you're the founder of this thing. And when it grows, which you expect it to grow, it's going to literally outlive you. And it's going to go to the second generation. And we have to be hopeful. And it's going to go to the third generation and ideally the founder is very important, So coming back now, then you had a fourth interview.
Yeah.
Of course. Then
Which was you.
Oh, was it?
So the fourth interview was you.
Really? Jeez,
so I didn't know you were this famous. Let's talk about that.
No, let's not talk about that.
Let's talk about how famous Mark is. So I get a text. Was it WhatsApp? From Kamu. Hey, did you see? Mark is trending on TikTok. Yeah, Mark is trending. I check. One clip is like at 50,000. Now it's like at 150,000.
Yeah.
Hey, banna. Then I go to YouTube. I think now we're sitting at 4.5 thousand views, right?
So I am.
Why didn't you tell me
my
you're popular?
episode? Is my episode
at 4.5
the best episode?
Based on views.
No, come on now. No. Is my episode the best episode for 2024? That's the question. Is it the best?
Because of the views.
No. You're not answering the question. You need to measure it. We're measuring it.
Mark is saying this because I posted yesterday that Manisela and Tapi was episode were my favorite. So now you're putting me on the bar. Was it the best episode? I think so. And I think it was. But let me also
there we go.
Can I put it into context, right? Because we know each other.
Yeah.
So there was a level of us being comfortable in the conversation. There's marriage of things.
No.
Yes.
No.
What made it best? It's because firstly you're popular. You're very popular.
That's not the point.
They shocked it.
No.
Like, I'm shocked. I didn't know.
Guys, the
Mark
interview was good. Please,
popular.
if you can, episode 4, watch it again and again and again. That is the episode to watch. All the others we can watch later, but watch
the
mine
interviewer.
first.
I was the the interviewer.
So
So yes, I made it good. So I was the interviewer.
in actual fact,
Yes, I was, and it was very spontaneous.
all right.
Yes, give me my flowers while I'm still alive.
Flo, that interview was absolutely amazing, and it's all because
Of us.
Oh,
Hey.
thank you so much. Mostly me,
I
but
think,
yeah.
I think even the heading
Yeah.
from 1 track to over 50, people like, who is this?
Yeah.
But in all honesty,
Yes.
I didn't know you were this popular. Like people
know.
were busy saying, I know this guy. Get a mark.
I'm an
know-
impactful person. I deal with people on a daily. Yeah.
And your Instagram, one of his Instagram pages is like in 50,000. Maki, why didn't you tell me you were famous, Mari?
All right. Now, as we were going on to episode 5.
Hey, guys,
Episode 5.
do your due diligence. Right? I didn't do due diligence coming to
No.
popularity.
No. Let me tell you this.
But which
right?
was good. I
Yeah.
liked the fact that people were engaging it. I think even one of Spa's shots on TikTok is like heading to 50. But I think
He's
people
coming along.
resonated. He's coming along. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Oh goodness gracious. Mark.
So Spa and team, next year is 2025, all right? We're going to vote for the best episode in 2025. I better not be one of the guys interviewed.
No, you're not going to be interviewed. You're not going to be interviewed.
But I think what's
He's got
important.
a big ego.
No, that's not true. She
Very
just
big
doesn't want to give my flowers.
ego.
But I must tell you, one of the things that I love about what we do is that we engage with entrepreneurs.
I liked our interview though.
Yeah, and it was nice. But I
Yeah,
think
it
what's
was.
important is I engage with a lot of entrepreneurs outside. You know, the logistics business is very difficult, and it's driven and ran by a minority, call it that,
Which are thuggerish. in
which
their
are very
opinion.
very thuggerish and abusive. And I liked and if you talk, I mean, Tapia was saying the same thing. Like it's very, they take advantage of you and they will abuse you, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the time when I engage with other entrepreneurs in the space, we're able to come together and say, how do we solve this problem? Because the what I've noticed and you'll see with the interview I said as well is that you've got to kind of, number one, bring community in the room. You can't run a big contract without community. It's impossible. You
Especially
can't get into...
This is your interview with Spa, right?
Yes,
because you both you both work within the mining
Yes, and that
environment.
fed off then. Yes, that fed off to, I think that's episode 5. Hey,
Yeah.
and when we engaged, you could see that there was a lot of similarities because we're really in the same space.
Yeah.
And you have to take care of the community and you have to engage with business forums. So those entrepreneurs are probably the reason as to why the viewership was probably a bit high, because people would say, no, but I know MLM or I know this guy, and then it becomes a thing of they can kind of relate to it.
Even I love some of the things he said. I thought Spa was quite he's got quite a mind. Hey?
He does.
He's got quite a mind.
Absolutely.
Brilliant mind.
Yeah.
When you
Yeah, very
asked him,
clever
I
guy.
think you were talking about governance, and he talked about as much as you trust, you must verify. I thought,
Yeah. No, 100%.
100%. The importance of personal development.
The importance of governance.
I like how he was
in its
also
entirety.
very brave to share that they are growing and they've had little to no support from government.
Yeah, no, I've had little or no support from government as well. Yeah.
Because a lot of times I think this is where, and as you will see also with the episode, I said the reality, because it demystifies certain myths that people are attaining certain levels of success because
Yes.
they've been supported
Yeah.
by government, because
Yeah.
they are associated with this white person or this political
Or
party.
this minister or
and then
whatever.
and then
Yeah.
you really get to get real genuine stories
That's
of
right.
people that are building brick by brick their business, and that for me, I was like, yes, we are onto something here, because then that will give the next person watching that confidence,
Absolutely.
to say, oh, let me continue, I'm not alone.
No. And
I'm not alone. Let me just continue doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And kuzokanya.
And those stories are important.
Yeah, they
that
are.
somebody started from nothing. And I like the second episode really spoke to it with the guys who were saying, I mean, the one Malisela was talking about how he started as well.
Yeah.
Like literally
With
from
no
nothing.
even family
like
support
zero.
for him.
No family
Yeah, yeah.
support, no nothing. But again, you know,
tenacity to
yes,
continue.
and commitment. He was very committed to and I like. Look, he had a lot of punchlines, right? He had a lot of punchlines.
Drops mic. Him and I have a drops mic.
Yeah,
thing.
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah,
Kanye
he's
West
got a-
setup.
yeah.
But I like that. Like he's and the funny part about it, and that's how next year's
He
gonna be
sent me
bigger
a
and better.
message saying something like, "Don't tell me don't tell me your goals. Show me your calendar."
Oh wow.
Hey!
Oh wow.
Malisela.
Yeah, we see you, Malisela.
Then at that
Oh.
time, I didn't have anything in my calendar. I'm like, I think I'm very clean.
Yeah,
That's
very,
why-
very,
Oh, clearly my goals are not.
I'm available.
Oh.
Anytime
Then
you want me.
I'm not going anywhere.
Anytime you want me, I'm available, you know.
Yeah, but they were also inspirational.
Absolutely. And
Also
it's nice to see, and I can tell you what's going to be exciting, Flo, is to see what their next year looks like.
Yeah.
You know what and I can tell you they're going to grow because that's who they are. You could see. I mean, the ladies, the first episode, the second episode. I can tell you, TFN. Look, we're in the space. We're all dealing with TFN.
Yeah.
The way they've just managed to also just grow their brand. I can imagine
Yeah.
what next year looks like.
And it's been years and years
yeah,
of effort. Hey?
it has.
I think also it was the side chats that we had. Like I sat with Jonathan Mpake just briefly
Yes, you
around
did.
fleet management for SMEs. And
GT
what
Tires, you spoke to them as well.
Yeah, no, he couldn't make it.
Oh.
Then we spoke to Kamo.
Okay.
From a young, so that
Perspective.
Kamo's thing
Yeah.
is gonna come out
Beautiful,
in January.
beautiful.
Just some of her
Stay tuned.
her insights about how to navigate the space, but also the
As a
attitude,
young person.
the attitude required for you to thrive.
Yes,
in this
absolutely.
industry.
As a young
So,
person, yeah.
Yeah, I think that is. It's been a good.
It has.
journey,
But I want
yeah.
to talk about lastly. There's something that I want to talk about
Yeah.
around the actual summit.